Ladies and gentlemen, it is that time, once again, where my cat won't stop jumping on me as soon as I start talking. Guys, we have ourselves, yes, the third DCU project. Yo, what was the first one? Creature Commandos, which I'm now realizing that I don't think I reviewed that one. Little mini review, it's very good. Definitely go check that out. It takes place before Superman. So anyway, guys, Peacemaker Season 2, Episode 1 has finally come out. I don't know. I know that when Season 1 ended, there was this, it was up in the air like, yo, Season 2? But at that point, it would have been a sequel to, you know, the DCEU, right? And it would have been like more Aquaman references, more Justice League references. And I'm almost wondering if we got it back then, if James Gunn would have just said screw it to Peacemaker when it came to the DCU, which if you guys don't know, that's a separate thing because everything started over. I know all three The Flash fans out there are pissing their pants right now. I did review that one with a good friend of mine, as well as a couple others like Aquaman and all that stuff. I think the mic might be bad in that one. Anyway, guys, so what do I think of the first one? First one's great. I love that one. I think I gave that one like a 9 out of 10. That was back when I was just doing minute reviews though, so I don't go over a lot. But in this one, what were my thoughts? What were my expectations? To be honest, your boy was a little nervous. Yeah, I was a little nervous going into this one. Not for any particular, okay, it's the multiverse stuff. They really, okay, in the first season, we have this like throwaway thing where Peacemaker's racist dad, he has this pocket universe, or it's more just like a pocket dimension. It's just like a really big closet where he keeps Peacemaker's helmets. And that's it. That's all that we hear of that. And I do like how we've taken that. Now, I don't know if that inspired kind of what happens in Superman, because, you know, that whole end plot was because of a pocket dimension and, you know, it expanding and creating a big old rift. I don't know if that was intended to be like, oh, okay, we're kind of connecting things from Peacemaker Season 1 as the basis. That's kind of cool. But either way, in Season 2, that is the focus this time. Okay, I feel really stupid. I had to look up his name. Okay, Rick Flag Sr., right? So if you guys remember in The Suicide Squad, Rick Flag Jr. was killed by Peacemaker. So in this one, Rick Flag Sr., he's essentially replaced Amanda Waller, from what I can understand from what's kind of going on. And he learns for the first time that Peacemaker's the one who killed his son. So he's like, we're going after that son of a bitch, that he is priority one, which, you know, it makes sense anyway. I guess they don't know that Peacemaker has this like pocket dimension portal in his closet. But either way, I think it's really interesting that Rick Flag Sr. has been in all DCU projects. He had white hair in Creature Commandos. He was in Superman for a little bit, and now he seems like he's going to play a pretty big character here. And the only reason that I bring that specific part up is I still don't know. So, okay, the very beginning of the episode, we get the big retcon, baby. If you wanted to know what's canon, what's not canon, if you watch Season 1 to prepare for Season 2, and you're like, what the hell? They talk about Aquaman and the Justice League. That's freaking weird. Well, in the beginning of this episode, they say previously in the DCU, and they basically go over a collection of scenes and they replace little bits of dialogue. So when Adebayo is originally asking her mom, can you send us the Justice League? They replace it with her saying, can you send us the Justice Gang? And then in the very final scene, the infamous one for Peacemaker, where the Justice League shows up, Superman's completely silhouetted, same with Wonder Woman, it's Aquaman and the Flash, talking back and forth about how Aquaman fucks fish. That is completely erased, and instead the Justice Gang, Superman and Supergirl show up with Superman and Supergirl still silhouetted, which I thought was pretty interesting that they still kept them silhouetted, so that way they didn't make it obvious. If you rewatch season 1, it's like, oh, it was a contract thing. They couldn't get Henry Cavill for whatever reason. But I will say, for the retcon, I don't know. I feel like it's a little sloppy. It's a little sloppy. I understand that it's rough and tough, you know, trying to, because you have a completely separate universe. The DCEU is its own thing, DCU brand new thing. But the issue is that James Gunn is trying to, he's like, well, they're not connected, but I really like these characters. So if I could just move them over here, you know, I get it. That makes sense. And that's fine. If it's like one thing, if it's just Peacemaker, fine. I don't want freaking Shazam as what's his face, Zachary Levi showing up, or, you know, the Blue Beetle. I mean, I guess you could keep some, like Margot Robbie's Harley Quinn. That's fine. My big thing is just making it the exact same person. It's more so the events that doesn't make sense. Like, okay, if you're going to make season 1 of Peacemaker canon, great, perfect. However, Peacemaker season 1 is a sequel series to The Suicide Squad. And because they have a podcast where they talk after the episodes, and they talk a lot about, you know, what's canon, what's not canon in season 1. But I have yet to hear anything about The Suicide Squad. I mean, from what I've gathered, the only thing that's canon from The Suicide Squad is the fact that Peacemaker killed Rick Flag Jr. So that's fine. That's perfectly fine. But then that doesn't explain some other things, like they reference Project Starfish in Peacemaker season 1. I think there's even a reference in season 2, I forget. But it's like, if you're going to reference that, then the whole movie is canon at that point. And if the whole movie's canon, then Margot Robbie's Harley Quinn is canon. And if that's canon, then Jared Leto's Joker's canon. If that's canon, Ben Affleck's Batman is canon. You know, there's so many like little things here. So I just wish that season 2 was just a fresh start, you know, or something. But I get it, because we've already had the origin stories. We've already gone over that. It's just a bit of an issue, because I can't help but think about these things while I'm watching. I know I'm just thinking too much on it. You know, at the end of the day, you can't think about it. Don't think about The Suicide Squad. Just think about, okay, he killed Rick Flag Jr. That's it. Maybe they'll say in a later episode that it was, actually Project Starfish was a different mission where we collected seashells by the seashore. There were a bunch of little evil starfish. I don't know. I don't know. I hope that it's addressed, but at the same time, I fear it being addressed. So, yeah, I don't know. But getting into the actual episode itself, I guess let's talk more negatives, huh? The beginning intro song. Maybe it'll grow on me, but the first one, that Do You Want to Taste It, was such a banger. Well, I was showing my fiance the show for the first time before season 2 came out. She was like, "Can we skip it?" I was like, "What? You want to skip this? Really?" It's just so good. I love it. It's funny. You know, the song's God tier. This one is just kind of slow, and the song's not as good, so it's whatever. So this one's the one that I'm skipping, which sucks, because I was looking forward to it. But, you know, that's like, who cares? Who cares? That's not going to affect my score for the show itself. But we essentially see where everyone's left off after the ending of the last season, after Adebayo went on national TV and was like, "Amanda Waller, my mom is a bitch." We see that she's doing all right. She's got her own business. She's got these funny little business cards. Chris Smith, you know, Peacemaker, he's trying out for the Justice Gang. He wants to be a hero. He's finally getting out of his father's shadow, which kind of does bring up another point that I was just kind of thinking about. because at the end of the last season, we see that Peacemaker's father is haunting essentially Peacemaker, where we see him show up in not necessarily like a ghost form, but sort of like he's messed with his son's mind so much that it's like he's appearing right in front of him. And I think we're kind of ixnaying that, which is fine. I really like the route that they're taking, where he is completely, at first he's like, I'm over it. Who cares? And then later on in the episode, we find out after he looks around the pocket dimension for a little bit, after Eagly flies off, he runs into a bunch of Peacemaker helmets that are not his. And he's like, oh shit, opens the door, and there's his dad. And there is, yes, his brother that his father accidentally made him kill in the first season. So I really like where we're taking this. I'm so incredibly pumped with this plot line. I do think it's going to be a little predictable, though. That's my only thing. It's pretty obvious. And hey, I would love to be wrong, but if I could just predict it for a second, I think it's definitely going to be like, you know, he's going to be obsessed with coming over and staying in this God tier universe where his dad loves him and his brother loves him. And it's going to be this constant thing where they're saving the day. And then his friends are going to be like, where the frick did he go? And then they find him in the other dimension. And either A, the other dimension's actually going to be not as good as it seems, where, you know, because right now his father and brother, they're like good people. And, you know, you see when he walks into this alternate dimension, like, oh, they're the trio, you know, him, his father, and his brother. They take down the Rainbow Creature, which is a really old Batman villain. And you know, you see all these different things, and Peacemaker's dad like gives him a little rub on the ears, like, I love you, son. And it's like, yo, and I love this plot element so much. But okay, so back to my theory A, it's going to be like, oh, they're actually the Peacemaker from that universe, the brother and the dad. They're all racist, and the only reason that they get along is because they all have the same values. And then that's going to be like, you know, they're going to blow up that dimension at the end of the show, or something's going to happen in the main dimension, and then he's like, I have to leave it behind, and then he leaves. Something like that. Either way, I don't know. I see it being a little obvious, but I'm here for it. I'm fine with you doing some obvious stuff, you know, because we have seen this before in Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. You know, Scarlet Witch is like, I want to be in a dimension with my sons because they're out there somewhere. And this universe is so much better. So she's going to pretend that she belongs there. It's a little parallel. But again, I'm fine with it. But the multiverse stuff, it is old. I'm not as over it as all of Twitter, you know, with like, I'm not going to crucify James Gunn for even trying to touch up on it. I think that it's fine. I just hope that it's not something where all of a sudden we immediately go to Infinite Crisis on Infinite Earths, and it's just like, all right, DCU multiverse, MCU multiverse, and then it's like, I can't escape it. You know, I don't want that shit. I don't want that at all. It didn't work in The Flash at all, so I don't want to hear. All right. But yeah, so then aside from that, we get a pretty funny scene with Harcourt, essentially her therapist, or not her therapist. She's trying to apply to the CIA because obviously she lost her job after Adebayo was like, Amanda Waller is evil. So, you know, Harcourt being connected to Amanda Waller, she lost her job. Now she's trying to get in with the CIA, and they're just like, yeah, no, you have toxic masculinity. That's a pretty funny moment. Then she goes into a bar and antagonizes a bunch of dudes that she just beats the shit out of. And it gets to the point where with her character, you can tell that she's going through so much stress that she takes this guy, and instead of just being a normal bar fight, she's about to kill this guy. So she's taking his head and just slamming it into the pavement. After the guy, I mean, pretty much all he did was he like catcalled her, which is bad. So, you know, for the first like 2 minutes of the fight, you're like, yo, get him. But then for the last 2 minutes of the fight, you're like, oh, maybe stop hitting him. And then you see after they throw her out of the bar, she's all bloodied up. She gives a little smile, like she finally got what she wanted. So you do see some of that toxic masculinity. And I really like that. I really like where they're taking her character. We see that Peacemaker and her are a little friendly. Something happened on a boat. We don't know. And I really like where they're at. So the big change with Peacemaker in this season is he's not as clumsy. He's not as stupid, I guess. So we have a more serious Peacemaker. He still is reckless. Like we have a scene where after him and Harcourt have a fight, we have the HBO Max original orgy. So we get tits, we get pussy and dicks, and everyone's eating each other's ass. This is Herogasm from The Boys. I would honestly, I don't know. I don't know which one's worse, because I watched that one too. I guess in The Boys, a bunch of a gallon of heroes cum slaps onto the protagonist as they open a door. So maybe that one's still worse, but I don't think they show pussy in The Boys. I think that's one where they're like, strictly penis. We are a penis only company. I don't know. I just thought that was kind of funny. So this is a little bit of a complaint, but a little bit of a positive. So I do watch the podcast after each episode, and they were talking about the sex scene or the whole orgy scene, and essentially how the main point of it, right, is it's not just 60% of it is shock value, right? It's there to be like in your face, you know, kids don't watch. Now the point of it is that Peacemaker is just so out and down about himself because he has no family. His friends freaking hate him. He can't get into the Justice Gang. He can't be a real hero. So he turns to drugs. You see him taking a bong rip. There's a funny moment in the podcast where John Cena's like, I've never done drugs in my life. Someone had to show me how to use a bong. It's like, that's funny. And then, you know, he has this whole orgy and he's not even taking a part in the orgy. He's just like really sad, like in the middle of it, just like looking at the closet where the dimensional portal is. And we have this cool moment in the podcast where they're like, okay, the reasoning for this is he is so down and out that even the things that he turns to, like drugs and sex, even at its highest percentage, it's not doing it for him. It no matter how much of either he does, it's not giving him that rush that he needs. It's not giving him you know, just the happiness that he's looking for. None of it's going to work. So that's why when he's in this other dimension, he sees his dead brother alive. He sees this loving family. He breaks down crying. And I love that part. I love the emotion. I love the more serious Peacemaker. I love how we see that he's actually evolving over this past 6 months since the first season. He's evolving as a character. And I really love that. John Cena has grown incredibly as an actor. It's insane. Honestly, his poorest acting is pretending to get knocked out by Logan Paul. But that's for another day. So yeah, then we get this moment where he goes back into the dimension for a second time. The OG Peacemaker from that dimension is going to kill him. You know, John Cena, our Peacemaker, he's like, I can explain. We have this really God tier fight where this pro Peacemaker of Dimension 2, I guess Earth 2 is what they call it, sends out these like ninja stars and they're like, you know, crawling through his body, and it's like, oh, that hurts. And the fight is God tier. It ends with him pressing Peacemaker 2's jetpack, and then he shoots up into this spike in the ceiling, and then he just gets skewered, and it's just God tier. Also, I feel like I've seen that before. Someone tell me in the comments where that's from. Not like a doppelganger fight, but like someone is losing, so they hit someone's jetpack, and then they like uncontrollably fly off and then get killed. I might be thinking of The Incredibles, because when Sinestro, or whatever his name is, gets sucked into the plane, I know I've seen it before. Help me out here. But anyway, that's kind of where the episode ends. So we have this big reveal. So essentially the old Peacemaker is going to infiltrate this new universe. he is now, since he's not the only Peacemaker. So obviously that's kind of going where I thought it was going to go. He's going to be obsessed with this new universe. Everyone else is in a really shitty spot. We see a little bit of Vigilante and Economist. They don't really do too much. Economist is he's spying on Peacemaker. Same with Frank Grillo's character, Rick Flag Sr. He's spying on him. Not much has happened there. That's about it. Let me see if I have any other points. I guess the only other thing to point out before I give my final score is jokes wise. I will say I think a few more are missing this time around. Like, I don't know, during my rewatch with my fiance, I was cracking up at like half of this stuff. With this one, it's more so with like the Justice Gang stuff. Like, they have this whole thing because obviously they replace the Justice League with the Justice Gang. So in the final scene of season 1, it's like, oh, Aquaman fucks fish, and it's like, that's funny. In this one, it's like Green Lantern, Guy Gardner's character, he's like, oh, Peacemaker says I'm into puke. It's just not as funny. And there's just like a lot of moments like that. Like, there's this really elongated scene where Peacemaker's trying out for the Justice Gang, and they do like the whole Justice Gang's like behind a glass wall. And they're like, oh, we thought our microphones were off, but they were not off. And he could hear us talking about how he blows dudes and stuff. And it's like, it's funny for the first like 5 seconds, but after like 2 minutes, I get it. They're having a good time recording, but it's like, hot damn. Some of the jokes just kind of, it's like, let's move on, So I hope that they get a little more creative with the humor. Then I'll be a little bit more interested in what's going on with just specifically jokes wise, right? Story, I'm here for it. I'm loving it. Acting wise, everyone does a great job. So overall, I love the beginning. It's got its flaws. Is it better than MCU shows? Yes. Actually, you know what? Daredevil Born Again was God tier. I will say that. I loved that one. Again, it's a show that has a lot of a good amount of flaws. I'm not going to say a lot. I would say they're pretty even, to be completely honest. I think Daredevil is better in terms of action so far, but we've only seen a little bit here, right? But yeah, I don't know. We'll have to see how it ends up. Guys, this one's going to be a solid 8 out of 10 for me. I'm super pumped to see more of this. I am going to be releasing one review every single week, just because I'm pumped for it. So yeah, catch me next week for episode 2. Also, Alien Earth reviews are coming out. I'm going to do a half, like episodes 1 through 4. I'm going to review those, and then I'll review the final 4 episodes. So I'm going to be doing a lot of TV show stuff. So if you guys enjoy this content, let me know. And yeah, I'll definitely make sure to do more of it. So I'll be seeing you guys on the next episode of Great Guy Reviews Peacemaker episode 2. See you then. Bye-bye.